Hello, DC. Yes, it's not Vince Coglianese today. It's Mike Opelka. I haven't been here in a while, but I'm very honored to be back, sitting in for my friend Vince Coglianese on WMAL, and we have much to discuss today. Let me tell you, it is a veritable cornucopia. I'm trying to use my Thanksgiving language since today actually is the anniversary of George Washington declaring a day of Thanksgiving in honor of the new Constitution in 1789. And then if you go forward a little bit to 1863, this was the first national celebration of Thanksgiving here in America. So here we are, just a couple of days before Thanksgiving, but we're having the early Thanksgiving, and a lot to be thankful for in this country. And I'm not just talking about the election, which I know you know went the way a lot of us wanted it to go. Very happy about that. But we have many, many, many things to be thankful about in America, in this crazy place we call home. Just think of it. The rest of the world, really, like 98% of the rest of the world would swap places with any of us just because there's so much potential here. But we have a lot to go over today. And I'm talking about things that have happened just in the last 24 hours. I want to talk about some practical things as they relate to Thanksgiving and some kind of crazy things that I'm witnessing. Very happy of what went down yesterday at the end of the day with Jack Smith stepping up and going, yeah, we're not going anywhere with these cases, and the federal judge dismissing it. I know it's still dangling out there like the sword of Damocles, and could come back after Donald Trump finishes his second term. I'm doubting that's going to happen. But it was fun yesterday, after all of that, to watch the Democrats and their competition that they have every time Donald Trump has something happen to him or about him that the Democrats don't like. They put on their best Usain Bolt impression and sprint to the cameras to get in front of CNN or MSNBC, and that happened yesterday. Currently, the guy who has beaten out Chuck Schumer in the sprint to the CNN cameras, Representative Dan Goldman, went immediately to CNN, and he was upset about it instantly. It's almost as if he knew it was coming. It's almost as if they leaked it to him. Dan Goldman, New York. He's from the House of Representatives, for representing a district in New York. He's not happy about what happened yesterday.
I think it is a shame for justice in this country. It establishes that Donald Trump is above the law. The Supreme Court put him above the law in that opinion that Paula just mentioned. But now he appears to escape full accountability for what were crimes charged by a grand jury. And I would just add one other thing that we ought to pay close attention to. We cannot normalize the fact that Donald Trump, as the president-elect, should not be held accountable for crimes that he committed before.
So the whining began almost immediately yesterday, and it was fun for me to watch. I certainly had schadenfreude moments yesterday, and it wasn't exclusive to CNN, of course. Over at the network for sale, MSNBC, I don't think there's an official sign out in front of MSNBC saying for sale, but, it's kind of whispered around the neighborhood that that's going to go up for sale. And the people who are interested in it are already talking about it. You know who I'm talking about. But MSNBC was furious. And they were mostly mad that the Biden administration's efforts to bankrupt, distract, imprison, you name it, Donald Trump never, what's the term that Molly Jong-Fast used? Never broke through.
How do you think this plays politically?
I mean, if people know about it, right? One of the things is we saw all these cases and they never broke through because the media is different, right? It's on podcasts, it's Joe Rogan. So, if it ends up being talked about on Joe Rogan, then people will find out about it. And if it doesn't, then it won't. I mean, that's the sort of siloed effect we're in right now.
So a couple of things about this, which is really interesting. And if you're a student of the media, especially a student of the media right now, this was an amazing admission of insignificance by Vanity Fair's Molly Jong-Fast, who has a couple different colors of hair. It's really fascinating. I'm hair jealous because mine is evacuating quickly, but I just don't understand some of the different colors and the style. But never have been a style maven. But this was on MSNBC yesterday, and Molly just appears to have admitted that this cable news outlet is below insignificant. Serious. Listen to her again and listen to what she's saying and who they have ceded influence to.
How do you think this plays politically?
I mean, if people know about it, right? One of the things is we saw all these cases and they never broke through.
I'm going to stop right there. She said, if people know about it, all you guys on MSNBC and CNN and all the leftist media outlets have been talking about for years now is how you're going to get Trump, how this is going to be his downfall, his undoing. There were myriad ways you described it. It really was amazing. You guys loved the lawfare. You guys signed on to all of it. You were all there for every bit of it. I give you another example of it.
It just sends the message that there is no person in this country who's above the law.
What we are seeing here is exactly what should be done. We need to recognize and praise Merrick Garland for following the rule of law.
The message that it sends is really important, that even the former president of the United States can be held accountable and should be and will be.
Yeah, they were absolutely apoplectic over this possibility that the law was going to take down Donald Trump. Remember, they even got excited about Trump's mugshot.
They're going to be mugshots. They're going to be fingerprints.
Donald Trump will be fingerprinted. He will be photographed and end up with a mugshot.
A picture that will live in infamy. The first mugshot of an American president splashed across the front pages this morning.
This is the amazing part of all this. I want to get back to finish up Molly Jong-Fast, but that was supporting my theory about what was happening. They said the lawfare never broke through, but she admitted in the early part of her statement on MSNBC yesterday that maybe they're not really that important anymore because people didn't know about it, even though they've been carping on it for forever.
Because the media is different, right? It's on podcasts, it's Joe Rogan. So, if it ends up being talked about on Joe Rogan, then people will find out about it. And
she just basically said that cable TV news, especially MSNBC and CNN, are insignificant. She absolutely surrendered right there, which is going to tie into something I want to break down that I witnessed earlier today with Alec Baldwin, a guy who is not a stranger to the left side of the mainstream media. He's in Italy right now promoting something, but you're not allowed to talk about his movie Rust. One of the conditions of him being an honored guest at this Italian film festival is that nobody talks about the fact that he pulled the trigger and killed someone on the set of his movie. Yes, Helena Hutchinson, or Hutchins, I think it was. You're not allowed to even bring it up, but he's pontificating as well. We'll get to that. But this is just amazing to me that this big media player from Vanity Fair, one of the icons on the left when it comes to media, is saying that unless it's on a podcast, it's not significant. That's really interesting. And that is one of the more important revelations that came out in the wake of the announcement of the dismissal of these two cases, and there may be more falling by the wayside very soon. I know the New York case with Alvin Bragg and the case in Georgia with Fannie Willis. I'm sorry, I forgot what show I was on. Big Fat Fannie Willis have yet to be completely dismantled, and they should be based on everything we've seen. But the left is still licking its wounds from the election, and now they have this to deal with. They have the reality of their own insignificance. the reality of, and they did it to themselves. If you want to break it down, what happened to the left side of the mainstream media happened because they lied to people over and over and over again. And we could speculate that what happened was they were directed on what to do from the talking points, and that's how they got there. I don't know if that's completely 100% accurate, but there certainly was enough repetition of topics and specific lines that were used that you heard on one show to the next. From Morning Joe through Rachel Maddow, from Jimmy Kimmel to Jimmy Fallon, across every show on CNN, there was a uniformity and a use of almost the exact same verbiage that you wondered if there was some sort of collusion between people that like to think of themselves as journalists, and now they're struggling to stay alive and stay relevant. I'm enjoying it. I'm here for this because they certainly deserve every bit of it, in my opinion. Last night, we had a little bit more of this on CNN, there was a little bit of a schadenfreude moment. I was absolutely giddy after watching Scott Jennings on CNN. He's become such a great warrior for the truth in the middle of CNN. I can't believe they keep inviting him back. And I can't believe that somebody in the producer's wing at CNN is going, we can't have him on. He keeps telling the truth. Yesterday, there was a discussion about the relevance of information on Twitter X. And Scott Jennings was asked about his source for his claim that X is more balanced than any other platform. Check this out. It's kind of subtle, but it is wonderful.
Also, I heard what you're saying about X. I saw a survey this week. It's now the most ideologically balanced user platform.
Scott,
of any platform.
stop. It's too early. I just sat down. I've only been here for 2 minutes.
You cannot continue to say
the show, you cannot say that.
So,
that's not the case.
So
Who's the source of that?
What I find, we reported it on this network.
Who's your source, Scott? Well, we reported on this network. I believe the man's name is Harry Enton, who reports all of the statistics. He is considered to be CNN's current gold standard of statistical analysis. And he's the one who said that Twitter X is more balanced than any other platform. And they can't handle the truth. It was so much fun. So much fun. We have so many more topics to get to today. Plus, Donald Trump is interested in kind of tidying up the military and removing the transgender element and the wokeness in our military, and maybe hoping that will reinvigorate the recruiting. In just a few minutes, in about 15, 20 minutes, we're going to get Alan West, Colonel West, on the air here to join us to talk about that very mission and something he said on cable news yesterday. No, it wasn't on CNN or MSNBC. That is absolutely so simplistic and so spot on. We got to play it at least once today. We'll get to it. We'll get to all of it. You're welcome to join the conversation. 888-630-9625 is the number. 888-630-9625. It is 3:25, the Vince Coglianese Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for Vince. If you want to see the stories that are catching my attention, you can always check out pureopelka.com or follow me on Twitter X. I'm usually posting the stuff that catches my eye, and then we'll do a deep dive into it. And you're always welcome to join the conversation. 888-630-9625. One of the things I haven't been able to get out of my brain since yesterday, and I'm pretty sure when Pete Mundo was here yesterday, he probably played this clip. But Joe Biden pardoning the turkey. And I make my home in Delaware. I wasn't aware that the state dessert was peach pie, although Joe Biden shared that with us yesterday. One of the turkeys was named Peach, and the other was named Blossom. And this is really about all Joe is qualified to be doing at this point in his decline. But I just can't get past this moment and how there wasn't an immediate rush to institutionalize Biden yesterday after the turkey pardon thing, especially the one with Peach, in case you missed it.
Delaware has a long history of growing peaches. In fact, the peach pie in our state is one of my favorites. It's a state dessert.
Okay.
Peach weighs 41 pounds and loves to eat hot dish and tater tots and cross-country skis.
I'm sorry. I don't think there is a turkey on the planet that eats cross-country skis. And nobody seems to be focusing on this but me. Biden's telling us the turkey eats a hot dish, tater tots, which I get because who doesn't eat tater tots, but cross-country skis?
Dish and tater tots and cross-country skis.
Cross-country skis. There's absolutely no reason for that phrase to be in his head, and cross-country skis, when talking about a turkey eating. It's the same guy who told Ukraine, sure, go ahead and fire the long-range missiles that we gave you into Russia. And he's also talking about a turkey eating tater tots. But it wasn't that long ago. Like you think within weeks, he also said this.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
Tater tots, cross-country skis, smacking people on the ass. I don't know what's going on in that White House. We've got Lieutenant Colonel Alan West just around the corner joining us. We'll talk about what Donald Trump's going to do to straighten up the military. He's planning on getting rid of all the trans and I guess all the wokeness. It's the Vince Coglianese Show with Mike Opelka on WMAL, trying to make sense of the news. It is 3:35 on WMAL, the Vince Coglianese Show. Vince is on vacation. Mike Opelka back with you. Always have appreciated the opportunity to sit in for my friend Vince. And I appreciate it even more today because we get to spend some time with one of my favorites. I'm talking about Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, the guy who served this country and also served in the military and also served in Congress, and now is the executive director of the American Constitutional Rights Union and chairman of the Dallas County GOP. Lieutenant Colonel West, thank you for being here, sir.
Hey, Mike, thank you so very much, and happy Thanksgiving to you and the listening audience.
Well, I'm glad you're here. And, you know, I guess it's almost a couple of years now that I've been saying I'm glad you're here because that motorcycle wreck scared the tar out of me. Are you 100% recovered?
Well, I'm never going to be 100% because I had to get complete right shoulder reconstruction. So I underwent what's called a ladder J procedure. And so I've got pins and screws in. But, you know, I'm alive and I'm still able to do push-ups. I knocked out about 4.5 miles this morning, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, I would not be stepping in the ring with you. Not in any way, shape, or form.
Cut it out, man. Cut it out.
Very glad you had time to join us. Yesterday, you kind of went viral after an appearance discussing Donald Trump's plans to make a few changes in the military. And it deals with some of the wokeness in the military. And I'm going to play the clip for the people that didn't hear it, Colonel, and then we'll talk about it.
If you look down in your pants and you're confused about whether or not you have a choo-choo train or a tunnel, the United States military is not the place for you. We're not about social engineering. We're not about paying for your hormonal therapies and your surgeries.
I got to tell you, sir, I've been playing that clip for everybody I can. It couldn't be any... You know, can I tell you, and you probably don't realize this, you and Rosie O'Donnell have kind of the same approach to understanding this. Did you ever think that I'd be comparing you favorably to Rosie O'Donnell?
No, and not before Thanksgiving, man. I mean, that's not a good vision that I have when I'm carving up my fried turkey.
No. Well, hang on. Let me give you the 6 seconds of Rosie O'Donnell trying to explain gender, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Tell them next time they're in the bathtub to look down. If it's a hot dog, they're a boy, and if it's not, they're a girl.
It's just simple explanations. It's not quite the train and tunnel, but it is the hot dog. And if you're not a not dog, you got to understand it. So I don't mean to mess with your Thanksgiving plans.
It's all right. It's just that simple. And when you think about our military and what has happened really since the Obama administration, all of these, social engineering and, woke cultural DEI, CRT stuff, we've gotten away from the core competencies of our military, and that's why you see the recruitment and the retention levels reflecting that. It's not where it should be. We haven't made it since this Biden-Harris administration came on board.
Yeah, and I have to believe, and I do not have a history of being in the military. I have family who have served this country, but I have to believe that looking at some of the wokeness that's been injected into our military and some of these trans issues that have come to the forefront, I have to believe that might affect recruiting. Is that a fair assessment, Colonel?
No, it's an absolute fair assessment. It's an accurate assessment. And when you think about it, this is not what the American taxpayers are paying for our military to do. These surgeries and psychotherapy treatments and things. This is a mental condition. That's what gender dysphoria is. And we don't allow people to come into the military. They have flat feet. If you are overweight, if you suffer from asthma, all of these different things. So why would we bend the rules and say that, oh, yeah, if you have a mental condition, we're going to allow you to come in, when all other mental conditions, schizophrenia and what have you, we don't allow people to serve in the military. So thank God we have a new commander-in-chief, and he's going to start correcting a lot of these things.
Yeah, I think we're headed that way, and the left is freaking out, as you might expect, saying these are 15,000 members of the military that we can't afford to lose. But if they have gone through the transition, and I've done the research on the science on this, if a biological male has gone through the physical transition surgery, they are no longer combat eligible. They are, in effect, disabled permanently. So it's not like we have a soldier. We have someone who's a liability.
Yeah, you do. They're not, is what we call non-deployable. But the interesting thing is, where was the left caring about the 19 to, I think, 21,000 that they put out in the military for refusing to get that unethical, unconstitutional, unlawful order of the COVID shot? So, I'm sick and tired of them playing, situational ethics and the hypocrisy, which is quite delusional and laughable.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. I had completely forgotten about the people who were forced out of the service for not getting the COVID jab, and I'm hoping there will be some justice, some equity for those people going forward once Donald Trump is sworn in. Talk about Donald Trump and his selection for for Pete Hegseth to be his Secretary of Defense. Thoughts on that, sir?
Well, I would tell you that without a doubt, everyone's, talking about his experience and whatever. That's why it's so important that if Pete Hegseth is confirmed, he's got to right now start building a stable of stallions, some thoroughbreds to be his undersecretaries, and also a good, strong Deputy Secretary of Defense, because those are going to be the folks that are key to making sure that you get that agenda implemented. And we do need to do some corrections as far as our military. And again, let's remember that when Barack Obama was there as president, he got rid of some 190 to 195 general officers and flag officers. So this is not something new when we start talking about some of these generals that have been signing on to this woke ideology, like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff right now, General Charles C.Q. Brown, who said that he only wanted X amount of white fighter pilots in the Air Force when he was the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Who cares about the color of a fighter pilot? I want the best fighter pilots.
I want the best pilot and the best shot. That's what I want in every instance on that. Yeah, I agree with you 1,000% on that. And while we're on that subject, Pete Hegseth also has said he is anti-women in combat. Now, the left has seized on this and said that Pete Hegseth doesn't want women in the military. It's just his opinion that combat is the issue, not in the military, correct?
Well, let's make sure we get the specific language. Anybody that deploys in a combat zone is in combat. What Pete Hegseth is talking about is certain ground combat billets, duty positions. When you talk about infantry, armor, artillery, when you talk about your specialized special operations forces, Rangers, SEALs, Delta, Marine Force Recon, Green Beret, that's what he is talking about, people that are involved in direct hand-to-hand type of combat. And so I would simply say to people that are listening, why is it that we don't have males and females competing together in figure skating? Or why is it that we don't have males and females competing together in gymnastics? And so many of us were appalled at the biological male that pummeled that young female boxer in the Olympics. So we are changing standards to make the round peg fit into a square hole. So let's get back to understanding what the core competencies are of our military. It's about fighting. It's about winning. And I hate to say it. It was Nathan Bedford Forrest who said war is about fighting and fighting is about killing. It's not about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I got to admit, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, the last guy I figured would be quoting Nathan Bedford Forrest was you. That's a surprise, but it's a great quote. It's well said, sir.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not worried about who he fought for or whatever, and the fact that he was a Democrat and he created the Ku Klux Klan, but he did talk about what warfare is all about. And if you want war is hell, that's what General William Tecumseh Sherman said.
That's true. That's true. We've been speaking with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He is the executive director of the American Constitutional Rights Union and chairman of the Dallas County GOP. Colonel, I have to ask you, you talk about Pete Hegseth gathering his stallions. Is there a chance that a guy named Alan West could be among those stallions and you might be back in D.C. in some fashion?
I don't know. You got to call down to Mar-a-Lago and you got to ask them. But, you know, I'm a soldier, always have been. My dad served in World War II, my older brother in Vietnam. We got generations upon generations. So if I'm asked to serve my country, because my oath to support and defend the Constitution never ended. So I'd be happy to continue to serve.
I get a chill when you say that. I not like Chris Matthews with a thrill running up his leg. I just got a chill down my spine when you talked about that. I'm a soldier, and if I'm called to serve, I will serve. Sir, you have all my respect and all my appreciation, and I thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Mike. And again, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, sir. There he goes, the one and only Colonel Alan West. I may have surprised him by bringing up the Rosie O'Donnell thing, but I did think it was a fair parallel to point that out, that yes, in fact, Rosie O'Donnell made a similar analogy when trying to explain the difference between boys and girls. Let's have the A-B comparison again. Alan West?
If you look down in your pants and you're confused about whether or not you have a choo-choo train or a tunnel, the United States military is not the place for you.
And Rosie O'Donnell.
Tell them next time they're in the bathtub to look down. If it's a hot dog, they're a boy, and if it's not, they're a girl.
Simple as that. Simple biology lessons. It's pretty easy to understand. There is breaking news that we're going to have to get into just around the corner. Apparently, President Biden is speaking, as we are speaking here, that Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a ceasefire deal. And this is kind of curious because earlier in the day, we were seeing video from the area of the IDF kind of pounding the region pretty heavily, the area where we were being told that there may be a some sort of ceasefire on the horizon, but there were a few more strikes being delivered at the time. So we will get the details on it. President Biden has just finished speaking from the Rose Garden and is walking back into the White House. So there may be some good news for a little Thanksgiving peace in the region. I know it was about a week and a half ago that Benjamin Netanyahu offered a $5 million payment per hostage. $5 million payment per hostage to Hamas. But I think this agreement may be with Hezbollah. We will get the details on it and share it with you just around the corner. As a matter of fact, I think let's cut away. Let's do a quick update here. It's 3:47. It is 3:53 on this Tuesday, the eve before Thanksgiving Eve. It's Mike Opelka in for Vince Coglianese on WMAL And we are trying to make sense of the news. Just got this breaking story. And what's fascinating to me is how it's being reported. And the announcement made in the Rose Garden just a few short minutes ago. President Joe Biden announcing there will be a ceasefire in place tomorrow between Israel and Hezbollah. Here's just a little bit of it. I've got more.
Today, I have some good news to report from the Middle East. I just spoke with the Prime Minister of Israel and Lebanon. I'm pleased to announce that their governments have accepted the United States proposal to end the devastating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah.
So Israel and Hezbollah, one of the groups that is hoping for the elimination of Israel is Hezbollah. And they have a well-funded and well-stocked military, but the Israelis, the IDF, have been pounding them lately. In fact, there were several exchanges in the last 48 hours. Hezbollah fired over 150 rockets and missiles on Israeli civilians just about 2 days ago. So I don't know how this slows down and stops so quickly. The President Joe Biden also wanted to make sure that he talked not just about the alleged or proposed soon-to-come ceasefire with Hezbollah, but is there possibly a agreement coming with Hamas?
And just as the Lebanese people deserve a future of security and prosperity, so do the people of Gaza. They too deserve an end to the fighting and displacement. The people of Gaza have been through hell. Their world's absolutely shattered. Far too many civilians in Gaza have suffered far too much. And Hamas has refused for months and months to negotiate a good faith ceasefire and a hostage deal.
Now, there's still Americans being held by Hamas. The numbers are vague at times, but it's as many as 7 and as few as 5. But where is the interest in the Americans? President Biden continues talking about this ceasefire.
And so now Hamas has a choice to make. Their only way out is to release the hostages, including American citizens, which they hold.
Very good to hear. I'm actually going to give him credit. I'm happy that he said that. I really want the focus to be on the American president being for the American people, especially when they're being held hostage by terror organizations for over a year and a month, almost a year and 2 months.
In the process, bring an end to the fighting, which would make possible a surge of humanitarian relief. Over the coming days, the United States will make another push with Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, Israel, and others to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. With the hostages released and the end of the war without Hamas in power, that becomes possible. As for the broader Middle East region, today's announcement brings us closer to realizing the affirmative agenda that I've been pushing forward during my entire presidency. A vision for the future of the Middle East where it's at peace and prosperous and integrated across borders. A future where Palestinians have a state of their own, one that fulfills its people's legitimate aspirations, one that cannot threaten Israel or harbor terrorist groups with backing from Iran. A future where Israelis and Palestinians enjoy equal measures of security.
I'm really kind of pleased that President Biden mentioned Iran backing the terrorists and how that's got to end. I'm not a big fan of this guy, but this is a step in the right direction. And you might think that it's happening because why? I don't know. We're 55 days away from Donald Trump 2.0. It's Michael Pelkin for Vince Coglianese on WMAL.